Hello, Chassos. How the fuck are we? Happy Dataslate, everybody. And can I start by saying we got away with fucking murder. Absolute murder. Now, there's been a couple of people that have, doomed a little bit over the points decreases that we got. I'll drop this down so you can actually see the chat floating over my head. By the way, loved the lurker memes when everybody was sitting in there. Thank you very much for that. Hello to everybody that is here. All the regulars, Moria, Ratlord, Kiryu, Loopy, great to see you. Hep B, welcome from the UK. So there's a lot to unpack with this data slate. And you might be saying that, yes, there were 3 units that got their points adjusted, and we had nothing with our rules. But there's a couple of things that I want to point out, and the rabbit hole goes a lot deeper than you might first think. And I think that we are about to see a significant shift in the meta. When it first opened up at the start of 10th, we were vehicles. Everybody was loving the greater toughness. And then as GSC and Eldari got toned down and whatever else, we started seeing more Horde armies or MSU coming into play. Now we're going to see another shift entirely as we've had Codex Admech, Codex Space Marines, Codex Necrons, and surprisingly the Necrons really didn't get touched in this, but we'll touch on that. So let's first and foremost bring up our MetaWatch stuff. This is what we were looking at pre-data slate. So Necrons and Eldari, 56% each. Eldari got nuked from orbit. Necrons didn't get touched. Not at all. They're outside of the Delta, and GW are happy with that because they're probably selling a bunch of kits. Votan, Chaos Space Marines, all that sort of stuff. Almost everything on one side or the other within the Delta. Unfortunately, down here is not a great place to be, and we'll talk about Drukhari when that comes up. I might even jump into the team Discord, and I'll have some of anybody in there that wants to jump in and talk about their faction. I know that Moria is a very good Imperial Knights player, and there was a ton that changed for him, but we will do that a little bit further down the track. Now, before I get into the meat of it, thank you to all my patrons and all of my Twitch subs and YouTube members that make all of my videos possible. Thank you very much. If you would like to join them, get access to the Discord, there is a link in the description if you're on YouTube to get to the Patreon, or you can do it through YouTube membership. I really should look at setting up for Twitch subs as well. I don't know what that entails, but I'm new to Twitch. The second thing is that if you're enjoying the content and whatever else, and you want to see me start slapping people with Kroot when they first come out, we are doing a bit of a community fundraiser to get more Kroot boxes than I would otherwise be able to get. If you would like to donate, there should be in YouTube a PayPal link down below. If not, I'll put one in posts after we finish the stream. Everything that gets donated to us will go on a banner at my team's event that we're doing for my birthday on March 10th. So if you'd like to get your name on that banner and get Kroot on the table even faster for me, then head there and do that. So with that out of the way, let's look at really what got adjusted. Dev wounds got not particularly adjusted, but the wording got changed so that it works with, we'll see, for custodies. This one, they've just made the wording more clear on that. Modifying a stratagem CP cost, nothing really changed there. Fire Overwatch if that enemy unit is visible to your unit, so you can't out of line of sight shoot it with indirect anymore, which is fine. Insane Bravery, I don't really know what was changed here. This might still be a holdover from the last time we had a data slate, but it's just before you take a battle shock test, so you can't fail it and then use it. Visibility section, we've just got aircraft models are exempt to the normal ruin visibility, and it's the same for towerings that are within this feature. So, faction rules. Now, I'm going to gloss over bits that don't really impact us too much. For anybody who's sort of clicked on this video, this is going to be very, very Tau specific, but I will go through some of the matchups. Sororitas, we didn't struggle against. We murder sisters, just absolutely murder sisters. So them performing 2 acts of faith as opposed to infinite acts of faith doesn't really affect us all that much, though it is a little bit of a hit to Sororitas, so we're using the Triumph of St. Catherine quite well. I'm also super disappointed because I just started putting together some sisters that I got off a very good friend of mine, and there's a bunch of nerfs that they copped. But anyway, custodies are about to be everywhere. List building step, you need to be getting ready for Custodes because they now have their 4-up Feel No Pain work against Devastating Wounds. That will interact with the Riptide. By now, everybody probably knows that they got a significant point cut. They're down to 165 points, which is quite good. It's 5 points off of a ghostkeel. And they do different things. A 4 damage gun is nothing to sneeze at. So there's two things here where the Devastating Wounds profile that you could use for their once per game is worse against Custodes, but also we don't really care because 4 damage is such an awesome breakpoint to go into Custodes because even if they -1 damage you, you're still killing a Custodian guard if they fail one of their 4-ups. So it's swings and roundabouts. So then they got a bunch of other stuff. Epic did on that. Doesn't matter. Max 5, max 5, max 3. Basically what this means is they're paying less points to get units on the board, where before I think they were 4 and 6, though correct me if I'm wrong. Eldari got friggin' nuked. So they roll half as many fate dice. Fate's Messenger only works for the bearer. Phantasm is now a D6 and only works on infantry, which means there is no reliability in that stratagem. It went from being the best stratagem in the game to almost being not worth anything. Eldrad puts him up to 9 D6. I wonder if that means we'll actually see him because that does give you a fair amount of fate dice. Night Spinners, this is enormous for us, even though the landscape is changing with our crisis suits getting nerfed. Spoiler. Subtract 2 from its move and subtract 2 from advance and charge rolls made for it. What that functionally means is where normally we would go 16 with our auto advance on the crisis suits datasheet ability, we will auto advance 12, which I think is still fine. But it doesn't mean that we can't advance. So we go an extra 2 inches. Night Spinners are still a nightmare, but they're also much more expensive. And we're not particularly worried about them, especially because I don't know that I'm going to be playing Crisis Suits anymore. Maybe a 3-man brick, but, getting ahead of myself. Incarn once in each of your turns if this model's on the battlefield, so they can't just hit something with a Night Spinner, kill a unit, and then the Incarn just shows up. They can do that, but it's not on your turn. You can freely kill them and then not worry about the Incarn showing up with a free charge. This one, Wraithguard shoot back can only go into the enemy unit that shot it. They can't use it to shoot something else, which was really obnoxious before. Agents of the Imperium, meh. Astra Militarum, the big thing is officer models can use this to issue orders after they disembark from a transport or was set up on the battlefield. That is huge for a number of different things that weren't seeing play from them. Blood Angels, 2 to the strength characteristic, 1 to the attack characteristic on the charge. Blood Angels really needed the help. If you notice, they were actually further down than Drukhari. They were sitting on the lower end of 45. Quite nice. Chaos Demons, I don't really know what this means for them. Just battle line, you get to choose a major god, whatever. We just shoot them. Just shoot them in the face. That's all you need to know, just shoot them in the face. Chaos Space Marines also got nuked, thank fuck. Fuck these guys. They were in such an obnoxious spot. You cannot get in a transport that you don't share a mark with. Dark Obscuration is now 18 inches, which is enormous. Absolutely enormous. That means that a Crisis Suit unit can just walk up, you're in range, and you're going to shoot them with Sibs or whatever else. Profane Zeal, it is now only Chaos Undivided, and they get full wound rerolls. They don't get anything else. Full hit and wound rerolls was friggin' obnoxious. I don't know who thought that was a good idea for 1 CP. And then a Cursed Horde at the start of your command phase. You can return 1 Destroyed Torment, or up to 3 Destroyed Mutants. Cool. I don't think we're going to be seeing a ton of Accursed. They went up in points as well. Death Guard, they put characteristics on here, which I guess allows Trajan Valoris to ignore it, and it allows the Iron Here Champion to ignore it. The Grenade Strat can only be used once per battle, per Biologist Putrefier. These things ruined my goddamn existence. Between the Blight Drone Flamer, which is anti-infantry 2+, which a breacher squad with a Guardian drone, it ignores, and you just get out, then they die in Overwatch. The infinite grenade stratagem was something that, there was argument among the community. People weren't exactly sure. This clarifies that they only want you to do it once per battle. It's not even once per turn anymore. Each model can only be selected for this ability once per battle. So it means that we probably won't see these taken in triplicate. Or we might do so they get a free grenade, but it's definitely not as potent anymore. Deathwatch, according to a good friend of mine who plays Deathwatch, got fucked. So take for that what you will. Drukhari got almost a complete rework. I'm not knowledgeable enough on Drukhari, but I do know enough that Drukhari are going to be very potent again. Very, very potent, which is going to affect what we do at list building stage. Gene Stealer Cults, 1 to the result of its battle line, add 1 to the result of first or second battle round. It means that they're getting back their battle line units on a 3-up, turn 1 and 2, which I guess is good. It's a 4-up thereafter. Not really that much change for them. Atlan Jackals are now wholly set up within 9 inches of a battlefield edge. I think before that was 12, though I'm happy to be wrong on that one as well. Grey Knights, which are a secondary faction for me, are looking pretty good. Strategic Ploy, don't care about. Nemesis Dread Knight and Grandmaster in Nemesis Dread Knight, the heavy Psy Cannon got Ignore Cover and AP2, which realistically makes them AP3 because there's a lot of people who rely on cover in the current edition in order to protect themselves, and with good reason, unless, they're going into Tau or like Torrent weapons that have the Ignore Cover. Cover is actually kind of a big deal. So the Psy Cannon now is looking pretty good. Nemesis Demon Great Hammer is hitting on 3s. Thank God for that. Hitting on 4s with that meant that I never wanted to take this weapon. Nemesis Greatsword hitting on 2s is even more reliable. That is really, really great. Imperial Knights, I think the big ones for this is that they stole the Eldari ability. Reroll 1 hit roll and reroll 1 wound roll. Bondsman ability, I'll let Pat explain this one. The armature model you select is affected by the Bondsman. I think that might be a holdover from the last data slate, but yep. And then, 2CP, 2CP, who cares? Leagues of Votan, I don't think anything particularly changed for them. They still get to put 4 units on it. Their stuff was points nerfs. Desolation Marines, I'm fairly certain that was the past data slate. Space Wolves can now do their deeds in each player's turn. So fighting on your opponent's turn is no longer a feels bad. And World Eaters got nerfed. So Berserker Glaive, I'm going to assume was better than this. Add 1 to attacks and damage. It was probably +2, if I'm honest. Favorite of Cain, World Eaters model once per battle. So using that more than once. World Eaters Demon Prince, unless they have an invulnerable save, in which case they have a 4+. So I think they just bumped this invulnerable save up a little bit and then gave them a 4 if they already have one. So that is the balanced data slate stuff. Now, let's get into, you can see I was browsing this before. We will go to Tau first and foremost. I'll catch up on chat, and then we'll talk about Tau, and then talk about, in the grand scheme of things, how this affects Tau and where the meta is going to go. Because it is a poor general that only looks at their own faction, their own guns, their own troops, and doesn't consider their enemy. Sun Tzu, know yourself and know your enemy, and you need not fear the result of 1,000 battles. Anyway, let's have a look back over chat. Masu, welcome. Moody, good to see you. Just popped in from Scotland, morning in Scotland. Finished night shift and need my bed. Well, Moody, I hope you're still here, but if you're not, enjoy the sleep. Nobody's earned it more. Rest in peace, Wraithguard. I already hardly ever use crisis suits. Yeah, I've got some opinions on where this is going to go. Not even for demon players, rules for allies. Okay, well, that makes sense. Interesting. This aspect ratio is such a pain. Does good content a disservice? Well, I don't know what to tell you. I'm on a widescreen monitor, and until I get enough money to replace it, unfortunately, this is the aspect ratio that I have to go. I can zoom in a little bit, which is something I probably should have done before, but yeah. Berserker Glaive was D3 to each. Okay. How about the Town? I played one game with it, was devastating. Yes, it is easy to pump a lot of people with that. So let's have a look at this. Crisis Suit and Enforcer Commander went down, I think, by 10 points each, going to 80 and 90. Crisis Suits went up to 200 per 3-man. That means that a 6-man unit is the same price as a Storm Surge. Now, I'm not saying the Storm Surge will be better than Crisis Suits. They're much faster. Their output is honestly greater, although the Pulse Blast Cannon is great for just deleting Mortarion or a tank or whatever else. Riptide went down to 165, which I said before, and Vespid went down to 65. You will still not take them. You will still not take them. Their ability might be the worst ability in the game. At the end of your movement phase, you can put them into strategic reserve. Not even deep strike. I shit you not. I'm fairly certain that I've got this correct. So let's go to Vespid. I think I've gone past because I think they've still structured it as like fast attack and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, there's our Vespid. Place it into strategic reserves. At the end of your movement phase, they have the deep strike keyword, and then they make them go into strat reserve. So taking them down in a little bit of points isn't going to change shit. It's really, really not going to change a thing. So let's focus on the other stuff. Now, there's been a bunch of people talking about the solo commanders with precision of the Patient Hunter and rocking Sibs and whatever else. That is fine. One thing that I will say is that we give up at the moment already too much Bring It Down and Assassinate. Now, I love when people take that against me because I can bait them. And I can beat them using their strategy because they give me efficacy. But that doesn't mean that, one, you can do that against every opponent. And two, it also doesn't mean that you can pull it off every single game. I think that taking them in the landscape of where our lists are probably going to have to go, it will work in some lists, but I wouldn't count on it as a staple. Like, you've got to have it all the time. Crisis Suits being 400 points, and then because Cold Star is still the best option. 100% auto advance 18 and have assault is incredible. So you're paying 525 points for that combo. Oh, sorry, 510 points. Apologies. Well, no, let's call it 125 for the Cold Star because you're going to take Exemplar of the Kaoyun. There's no world where you don't. 525 for that combo is a quarter of your list. And that means that if you misplay that resource, you lose a quarter of your list. Whereas if they have to go through, Riptides, Ghostkeels, Piranhas, Breaches, Devilfish, whatever else, they're killing off, not even 1/9 or 1/8 of your list, which is much, much more palatable. Much more palatable. Like, them killing a Riptide isn't even 1/10 of your list. So, and generally speaking, they will need to put as much damage into a Riptide as they will to kill, well, I guess 2 Crisis Suits, but the Riptide has more toughness. So, and has a 2-up armor save. So, when I'm looking at this, Crisis Suits, at the moment, any of the lists that I have theory crafted in the very short time that we've got, and actually, I should have made this caveat before. Apologies for anybody that didn't see it at the start. Talking about this stuff can get people a little bit irate. Anything that I'm talking about is like aimed at high-level competitive. It's not fun with your friends. It's not like a local RTT where you've got a mix of good and bad players and whatever else. It's not playing the things that you love. It is you want every single point to be pushed towards the most efficiency or power that you can possibly get. If you like something, don't let me or anybody else tell you not to play it. They're your toy soldiers. Do whatever you want with it. So, Crisis Suits for me, I'm not going to take any more than a 3-man. I don't think. I think at 200 points, a 3-man is still particularly devastating because the output from it outdoes almost anything else at the 200-point mark. But putting in 6 models, if I miss position, if my enemy does something I'm not expecting, if I lose other stuff because I've got 400 points here and I run out of trading pieces and the Crisis need to go and stand on an objective and then all of a sudden get blown away, that becomes very uncomfortable. And I think we're going to see very, very few 2 6-man bricks in people's lists. Riptides, however, I want to go into their data sheet because the points are great. And the thing that I think that they're competing with at the moment are our broadsides and our ghostkeel. Now, for two different reasons. The broadside because they're anti-tank, and the ion accelerator is probably the only gun you want to take. If you're going into a Riptide list, you could probably do one with a heavy burst cannon if you know you're going into Marines, or you're going into like CSM, or even just like some more horde-based lists and you want that output of 12 attacks. That can be fine. That honestly can be fine. Ion accelerator at 4 damage. And let's be honest, there are very few instances where you won't overcharge. 4 damage is a breakpoint that we don't get on a lot of our guns. And when we're looking at the reason I mentioned Custodes, where they are, 3 wounds on most of their thing, their Terminators, I think, are 4 or 5 wounds or whatever, that's fine. But they don't want to rip a -1 damage strat because we will still kill a Custodian. Or if they do rip it, we can, okay, I'm not going to target that unit anymore. I'm going to target something else. There is baitability, and having this 4 damage gun is really, really great for removing, Terminators that have -1 damage, if those exist. I haven't double checked, but I'm fairly certain there are some that have that. That doesn't matter. You're still going to kill a Terminator every time they fail a save. And then you've got Twin Plasma Rifle on top of that. And, you can chuck Devastating Wounds on Custodians. We probably don't want to use that ability. It's a sort of a counter synergy where they will then start getting Feel No Pains against our damage output, which we don't want. So the Riptide competes with the broadsides there, but then also with the ghostkeel, because these things at T9, 14 wounds, 2 up, 4 up, they're actually pretty good for like a midfield, I'm going to stand on an objective. With 4 OC, they can hold objectives and bully people and do everything else. And if you've got enough from the rest of your army, if they're taking the heat, their shooting isn't something that we actually care about. It's not something we invest heavily into. Their shooting is something which we go, okay, cool. If it does something, great, but it's a force multiplier for the core of my army that's doing things. Or we just go, I'm going to sit at 72 inches. Well, I guess you can't do that, but like the end of the board, and go, if you step anywhere in this fire lane, I'm going to get there. And with a 10-inch move, same as the Skyray and the Hammerhead and the Ghostkeel, we are able to move quite quickly to do it. I'm actually looking at lists that include a mix of both, because Ghostkeels can be forward deploy and hold things early. Riptide's bounding from thing to thing. And don't forget, they're battle suits. We can also fire and fade them if we need to. I don't know that I want to spend 2 CP on it, but you can. This creates a landscape where it's not just Ghostkeels anymore. Like, Lone Op is still incredible, especially for some random off the side of the field, weak side objective that we want to hold. But Riptide's really, and this is the thing that I did in 9th when I was first wrapping my head around the army. And, Riptides in 9th were actually startlingly similar to how they are now, with a better ability, because the Nova Reactor was so much better than what we've got. I really hope they change this for the Codex. But anyway, I kept thinking that my Riptides were like my Crisis Suits and they would damage. They are not. They are absolutely not. They are objective holders, they are screeners, they are long-range fire support, they are force multipliers, and they are a body that you throw onto an objective to stat check somebody and say, if you can't outdo me, then this thing's just going to fall back, limping away with no wounds, whatever. I lose shooting I didn't care about for that turn, and then the counterpunch that's coming in is going to rock your goddamn world. So that's where I find Riptides. And I hope that answers a lot of people's questions, because I've had a number of people reach out about the Riptides. And I've said this before, Riptides previously weren't garbage because their stat block was garbage. Though don't get me started on strength 8 ion accelerators. This needs to be strength 12. Anyway. The Riptide was bad because other things outshone it in its point level and its similarity of role. Now, there is actually room to fit some of these into a list, or have a Triptide list where you deploy semi-aggressively and have it so that these big bases, and also think about the things we've been going into. Necron Hypercrypt is kind of everywhere. I know that there's also the Canoptech Court, but we're also about to have things like Drukhari, which I have a little bit of a nice little bit of tech that I want to give to everybody that showed up to this stream. So, and I was thinking about this before, but obviously think about this in terms of things that can pick up and drop down and whatever else. With Drukhari coming up, and we'll talk about them soon, they're going to be very, very transport, which they always have been, but they're going to use very well their transports with dudes getting out and doing whatever else. I, in a previous meta, was always going the Cyclic Ion Raker. I don't think that's going to be the case anymore. I think I'm going to go the Fusion Collider. It is 2 shots of Strength 12, AP4, D6 damage. Imagine having one of these pre-positioned and pre-planned, forward deployed, so that if I get first turn or second, it doesn't really matter if you deploy correctly. With lone op, they won't be able to do too much to you. You then use this, as well as extra fire support from behind him, to peel open the can that is a Drukhari transport, and then whatever gets out, if you've positioned correctly, you then charge and tank shock. Don't forget that they're getting out of an emergency disembarkation, which means on 1s, 2s, and 3s, they're taking mortal wounds. Drukhari are single wound models, which means that they're probably going to lose some in getting out. Then a ghostkeel charges in and does mortal wounds on the charge. And then if they don't have anything to counterpunch and kill it on your turn, it falls back and shoots. No problem whatsoever. Or if it dies, we've lost 165 points and their army stayed on their side of the board for that turn to be able to deal with that ghostkeel. That, to me, is an incredible bit of tech. I can't wait to put that down. By the way, I'm discussing all of this stuff and showing lists to all of my Chasso patrons, who are the absolute giga chads that keep my channel up and going. They get access to my list whenever you want. So if you want to join them, head to the Patreon or the YouTube membership. Anyway, so that is our points. Now, there's a couple of things that I want to point out from a couple of other armies. Let's go through those. And this is where we're going to see a shifting meta. Necrons were at the top, and they did not get touched. Notice that through this, I didn't mention Necrons at all. At all. Then we go into this. Let me show you. Do you see any green or red? Jason Spradling, how you doing? Apologies to everybody that's been throwing stuff in chat. I want to keep my brain on a roll because unfortunately I've been having a lot of insomnia nights, so I've been able to get my brain together, but I fear if I let something go, then it's just going to be gone forever. But thank you to everybody that's in chat. Thank you to everybody that's showed up. But Necrons, I am going to guarantee, are going to be everywhere. Now, I don't know enough about Necrons to know how they're going to shift to Custodes, Imperial Knights, Chaos Knights, all getting some much needed love. And Drukhari coming back up. A lot of the stuff that I've seen is either, you know, the crypt, whatever, running the obelisk, or one of the real big boys, which I got to play against on the weekend, an event that I won. I think we're still going to be seeing a ton of the normal things like the Lich Guard bricks, or what were the other ones? The Wraiths. Seeing Wraith bricks and all that sort of stuff. I think we're still going to see plenty of Catans. So Necrons are definitely on my radar, which also means the Darkstrider is on my radar. Do not sleep on this man. Whatever you do, he was not good at the start of the meta. Jaw Ironbane, is that really him? Is that the real Jaw Ironbane? My goodness. Thanks for the follow, dude. So when I look at Darkstrider, previously when 10th first came out, he was not good. There were not enough close deep striking threats that made us look at him as a viable option. He recently got a points decrease, I believe. The big things for him is that, one, pathfinders are looking a lot better, because the meta has shifted, and there's also a little bit of tech. I put up a video previous. It was when my PC was down. I was just using a phone to talk when I was in the car, but it's talking about the tech with pathfinders and what you can do to alpha strike or get to safety very, very early on. He gives them +1 to wound, which is really nice for the rail rifles. Jammer array, enemy units cannot be set up within 12 of this model. This model is tiny. This model is absolutely tiny. It's a tiny base. You can hide him in some of the most obnoxious positions. You put him with Pathfinders, you're good to go. If somebody takes something like, Assassinate as fixed, then because they have to declare that before your formation battle step, where you declare leaders and deep strikes and everything else, we don't really need to worry about that because we can go, cool, he's not going to lead the unit. Pathfinders I still get to use as my forward deploy and blah, 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 or double guiding. Darkstrider is just going to sit in this super obnoxious position where you will never get to him and never be able to deep strike within. There are too many things that are able to come up within 3 inches of us or within 6 inches of us that we want to be able to deny. I am not leaving home without him. If I can fit him in, he actually takes precedence over Farsight for me now. So, Necrons didn't get touched. Leagues of Votann, which are my other secondary army. Unfortunately, Thunderkin, Hearthguard, and Sagittars, which I just invested into, of course, all got a points bump. I think Votann is still going to be fine, though this hurts them. And this is, something that I was saying in the Kroot reveal stream that I did, where anybody that's complaining about Kroot, shut the fuck up, because us getting a deeper list of units, us getting a deeper codex or index or whatever is only good for us because look at this. You have 3 units hit and there is what else takes over? You've then got to look at these other options and there's not a ton of other options. I can tell you that. They still have great stuff. The Iron Here champions didn't get touched. Berserks are looking a little bit better, I guess. You could run into the mass warrior spam and pioneer spam. You could go for triple hexton land fortress. I don't know. But, this is the problem with having a very, very shallow index or book. Anyway, let's go to Custodes. And I'll save Imperial Knights for when I can get Pat into the Discord. Chaos Demons are probably going to be everywhere as well. Look at all this shit. Look at all this shit. Bloodletters, Demonettes, Flamers, Plaguebearers, Poxbringers, Screamers, Fiends, basically everything that they were using in the last edition. Skull Takers, just Kairos Fate Weaver went down. We're probably going to see a lot of them, though they're not as scary as they used to be because they don't have 3-up invulnerable saves. These guys were the bane of my goddamn existence in 9th. But I think we still have really, really good play into them. You've just got to make sure that you build your list correctly for it. Let's look at where are my custards. Chaos Space Marines got nuked. Thank you. Thank you to whoever did that. Dark Angels got a little bit of love. Death Guard, a little bit of love and a little bit of nerfs, which I think is fine. Wait, oh no, that's right. It's Adeptus Custodes. Ugh, you just had to be that person. All right, so what we got was no nerfs whatsoever, but buffs to Alaris Custodians, Custodian Guard, Custodian Wardens, the Shield Captain on Jetbike, and Virtus Praetors, which are their Jetbike dudes. Now, with the changes that they received there, as well as points cuts, as well as being able to take, so you can see 2, 3, 5, 6, 4 or 5. There are better break points than there were, 4 or 5. I think Custodes are going to start creeping back up, and we've seen whenever they've been popular, they have actually, been pretty prominent in the meta. People like playing them. Custodes are very much a stat check army, and they're an easy mode if you can't deal with me. So Admech didn't get touched at all. I know Alex is, well, actually, I won't speak for him. He might be a little bit disappointed by this, but he might also think that they're fine. I'm not sure. I do know that Admech need a little bit of love, so I'd be keen to get his thoughts and see how he feels about that. Eldari, Night Spinner, and Wraithguard, rest in pieces. Wraithguard, Night Spinner, you will not be missed. And then, Astra Militarum barely got touched. Black Templars, the Crusader Squad, which butchered everything that it touched. Grimaldus and Helbrecht makes sense. BA, interesting that they only got their army rule and they didn't get any other points cuts. Curious about that, but we'll see what BA players are able to do with it. Chaos Knights got a bunch of buffs to stuff that they weren't taking, but their War Dog Brigand went up. So I still think we're going to see plenty of Chaos Knights. They're still a very, very potent faction. I just think we're probably going to see maybe at least one big boy in the top competitive list rather than just all War Dog Brigand spam. And Executioner's got a little bit better. I believe those are their melee boys. CSM, die in a hole. Drukhari. All right. So we'll go into their index in a little bit, but have a look at this. Drazar, Grotesques, Hellions, Incubi, which now can have Archons join them. Talos's, Succubus, Raiders, Venoms. The only thing that went up was a Void Raven Bomber, which I don't know if any Drukhari were using that, but all right then. Pure Strain Gene Stealers went down for Colts, which, Libby is the only thing that went up for Grey Knights. I probably would have preferred some points cuts on there, but I guess getting the buffs to their Nemesis Dread Knights was amazing. Imperial Knights went down entirely, with the exception of Warglaves and Gallants and Atropos, I guess. Leagues of Votan, nerfs we've already talked about. Necrons didn't get touched. Orcs is an interesting one. There's a lot of stuff that I haven't seen on the board quite a bit, which got some points cuts, but then we also saw increases to Knobs, Squig Hogs, and Trucks. So keen to see where they end up after that. Space Marines, I don't know enough about, but Aggressors went up, Infernus Intercessors and Assault Incestors went down. Heavy Incestors went down. Outriders went down. Inceptors and Centurions, it makes sense that they went up. They were in every goddamn list. They were so good. Redemptors went up, thank you. Robot Gillatron went down. Sternguard went down. Whirlwind and Scout Squad. So you can kind of see these are very, very directed nerfs. These are nerfs of stuff that was in basically every list. Wolf's got nothing. Tower we've already talked about. Thousand Suns got nothing because they're actually in a good place. Nid's got some targeted buffs. The biggest one from my friend was that the Tyrannifex went down like 55 points. I think he says it was. But yeah, a lot of other nerfs to like scoring entities and that sort of stuff. World Eaters, some well-deserved nerfs. 8-bound, Exalted 8-bound, Khan the Betrayer, and the Master of Executioners. But the World Eaters Forge Fiend went down and the Lord of Skulls went down. So I wonder if anybody's going to run Angron double Lord of Skulls. I would be very, very interested to see that. So with that, let's also, there's some stuff in the rules commentary, but I think that's kind of maybe in scope for another video for things that are like real nitty gritty sort of stuff. So Power from Pain, this one got changed so that you reroll the hit roll and you get AP of 1, which is great. They have a Real Space Raiders, and then I believe they also have another detachment, Reign of Cruelty. This is the one that I'm expecting a lot of them to take because Real Space is more about the production of pain tokens where you get one for each of these models that are included. The Reign of Cruelty is when you disembark a unit from a transport until the end of the turn, that unit's ranged weapons have ignore cover and that unit's melee weapons have lance. Very, very potent. Now, I was reading up a little bit of these. This one, Nightmare Shroud, is going to be the biggest nightmare for... So if you're going to take anything away from this stream, when you're going into Drukhari, they are going to have Nightmare Shroud. Each time the Bearer's unit disembarks from transport until the end of the turn, enemy units cannot use the Fire Overwatch stratagem to shoot at the Bearer's unit. That means they're probably going to chuck this on like an Archon with a 10-man brick of Incubi, or what's another unit of theirs that slaps? Maybe like a Succubus with their stuff. I don't know enough about Drukhari, but I do know that this is when you have a go turn, that means that you are not getting shot and you will just go for your charge. So Nightmare Shroud looks very, very, very nice. Phantasmal Smoke, I think, is meh. Its benefits of cover and stealth. We honestly won't care about that. Spiteful Raider doesn't look too bad. Each time the Bearer's unit destroys an enemy unit in the fight phase, if that enemy unit was within range of one or more objective markers when the Bearer's unit was selected to fight, you gain one additional pain token. This is just power for killing things on objectives, which you're probably going to want to do anyway. Brawling out in no man's land isn't really something that, a combat army really wants to do, unless you're going to get something massive for it. So then you've got, there was one that was pointed out quite well. I think Cabalite Warriors is going to have a good time. Ranged weapons having sustained 1s or sustained hits 2 for Cabalite Warriors. So sustained is obviously quite nice. And it's one Drukhari unit from your army that disembarks from a transport that turn has not been selected to shoot. So it's only the shooting phase, but Cabalite Warriors getting a little bit of work done there. Wraith-like Retreat, I believe, is the other one where you can move, or was it Swooping Mockery? Somebody lands within 9 of you, moves 6. That just makes it really nice. Though, bear in mind, it is your transport can make a normal move. Though this is nice because transports are quite big. If you've got, like, the nose of it hanging around a corner, somebody gets a little bit too close and you just pop back in. all of a sudden you've completely ruined their plan. Night Shield also, you can give them a 4-up invulnerable save to a Drukhari vehicle. So you can see that this, and this is why I was talking about the ghostkeel, all of this is around their transports. All of this is around protecting your troops, getting them in, having them sort of have their own little go turn, and being able to, put some hurt down. I'm not going to go into all the stuff. One of the big things here is that the Archon, with his leader ability, is finally able to join Incubi. I've got a Drukhari friend. A friend who plays Drukhari. He's not a Drukhari himself. That'd be terrifying. This was a real big deal for them, not being able to put him in an Incubi squad. So in terms of this, when I start looking at my list building process, because of Crisis Suits, and I'll go back to our points, because of Crisis Suits, and I said this before, being 400 points, I don't know if I want to have a unit that expensive. I think that outside of like a Storm Surge, which, I've won 2 events now with Storm Surges in my list. I take from that what you will. 400 points for Crisis unit that kind of does evaporate under any sort of decent fire. I don't think I want to invest that. I'm happy with a 3 model unit, and I'm more inclined to go with like a Farsight unit that, rapid ingresses, moves up, has the +1 to wound, and can, punch a hole in some whatever. I won't give away details of the exact list that I'm cooking up for my new GT list, but I can tell you that it is very, very Fisher Fury based. Fisher Fury, Cadre Fire Blades, and then a whole bunch of supporting pieces to help them out. Pathfinders and Darkstrider have gone up with their stonks just because of how the meta shifted and changed a bit. Also, don't forget, with everybody rocking, like Dark Angels, Terminators are going to be everywhere. Custodies are going to be everywhere. 3 rail rifles with +1 to wound when they're strength 10 already is really nice. Even if somebody has -1 to wound, which some of the, I think it's the Custodies Wardens do, you're, would be wounding on 4s back to 3s, which is just so nice. So nice. So I would say if anybody is looking up their game for Tau Empire, they're looking to get more competitive, I think the way forward is Fisher Fury at your core. Crisis Suits are 3-man in support, sure. Riptides, Ghostkeels, Sky Rays are still excellent. The Storm Surge, if you want to flex on your opponents because you beat them with the Storm Surge, or do like I do and win an event with 2 of them. Stealth Suits are still great. Sky Rays are great. I stay away from Hammerheads and Long Strike. The Cold Star, I'm less inclined to take for that points value for the 3-man because I think that's going to be a deep striking threat. I may look at testing a list which has still got 6 models of Crisis Suits, but at the end of the day, because we've been playing it for so long, we know what 6 Crisis Suits will do. Like there's nothing up in the air for me, so there's no questions to answer there. As for the solo commanders, if I'm not rocking much Assassinate and Bring It Down, I will look at it, but I will probably still be running a list because it's hard not to as Tau where I'm giving that up. 2-man broadside units have actually been growing on me quite a bit. Onvara is still a great meme of a "you will not remove me from this objective." I kind of love that. Crude Hounds need OC. I'm so devastated that they don't. Fast Stalkers are fine. Crude Carnivores are fine. I'm going to hold off on anything to do with that until the Crude Box comes out. I think that will once again change how we do things. With the Riptide going down so much, it makes the Yavara look worse. Tetras is still an absolute staple. Everything else on here is whatever except for the Tiger Shark, which is just money, assuming you're playing in a WTC event, or you can rapid ingress the thing on with Stealth Suits, which is definitely a play that you can look at making. Yeah, the Yavara at 210 looks worse than a Riptide now, even though that Flamer is amazing. The 18-inch normal move is amazing. I've still yet to get my hands on them, so, we'll see when that happens. But, so at the moment, I think that's where a lot of our units look like. And I think at present, if we go back to this little meta watch, I expect to see Eldari fall off a cliff. Necrons are going to stay up here. Leagues of Votan will probably go down to the 46, 47 mark. Chaos Space Marines will probably do the same. I think the indirect winners of all of these nerfs are going to be Orcs, Thousand Suns, us. Space Marines got some pretty targeted nerfs, so I'd be keen to see where they sit. I'm not going to speak for Dark Angels because I don't know enough about them. Grey Knights are probably going to bump by like 1 or 2% with the changes to Dread Knights. Space Wolves at 52% with their deeds happening on both players' turn. I think that's probably worth like a 1% win rate. But always bear in mind that nobody has all of the answers, and there might be things in list generation and where the meta shifts that we don't see coming and we've got to rapidly adapt to. So everything that I've said here, be ready to flip on a dime, because if something comes at us that we weren't expecting, some new piece of tech, some new dominant whatever, even like, you know, the Necrons, we're using 2 of their detachments. If it turns out that they have another detachment that looks better because they're not getting just face wrecked by Eldari and Chaos Space Marines and Adeptus Astartes, then, you know, there might be something that comes out of the woodwork that we have to answer that question. Yeah, I'm going to jump in with Pat now, and we're going to talk about we're going to talk about is my dog behind me because I've got to push back and get the headphones in. We're going to talk about Imperial Knights because I didn't know enough about that, and we are 100% going to have that conversation. So just a second, I'm going to get headphones in so that we don't double up, and we'll give you a full breakdown of, and he might even be able to speak about Death Guard and Militarum while we're at it. For anybody who doesn't know him, Pat is a team member. He's the first person that I properly headhunted and probably one of the nicest dudes in the circuit. And he's also a walking mountain. I have since dubbed him the God Engine. So, yeah, let's get the headphones in and let's get Pat on. All right, and I should have I'll unmute my Discord. G'day, mate. How you doing? Pat, can you hear me? Patrick.
Hang on.
Hey, there he is.
Yeah, sorry about that, buddy.
No, that's all right. You just did a wonderful prayer to the Omnissiah, allowing the God Engine to work.
No, I just needed to slap the terminal a couple of times.
All right, mate. So let's start on Imperial Knights. Now, with the rules changes, obviously the reroll 1 hit roll and reroll 1 wound roll is fantastic, because before you were only getting pick 1, weren't you?
No, it's reroll 1 hit roll of a 1 and reroll 1 hit roll of a 1 of a wound. So it was literally only ones. So half of the misses were just chuck it in the bin. Sad. The amount of 2s I have rolled is infuriating.
Okay, so I assume the CP cost adjustment, that happened last Dataslate, didn't it? The Trophy Claim and the Valiant Last Stand?
Yeah, those are previous ones. Same with the Bondsman.
Okay, so nothing changed on Bondsman. Okay.
Yeah.
So big sad, big boys still don't get their Bondsman stuff.
For now. It's if the positioning doesn't improve, because, well, hell, I can do my best, but honestly, like, best in faction for Uprising was 76.
Yeah, right, okay. All right, well, let's move on to the points cuts, because there is a lot of green on my screen right now. There is a lot of green. So talk me through how this is going to change with everything that we've spoken about, because I know that you track the meta as well. With the changes that we've got, how much is your list changing? What that we've got green here actually makes you want to chuck it into a list?
Okay, so there's 3 possible loadouts that I'm looking at. One has Frank Castellan, the other one has Count Cinder, and the other one has Calvin Caliber, which is a Valiant, a Castellan, and a Crusader.
Right.
Those are, if I'm making a big switch to the list, there is a 4th list, which you're probably going to see sooner rather than later, which has the fun little entourage that you've seen before.
Are you talking about the little boys?
The Rogue Trader.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Because that points change means I just drop the Psyker Assassin,
Hmm.
the Calexis. I get to keep the Calidus, and then I get to have. I'm playing Knights with the exact same Knights list that I've been running before, but
Hmm.
now I've got an Infiltrate unit that also has a redeploy for D3.
Very nice. And are you still running the big boy that takes the enhancement that allows you to like take off turn 1 and then come back on? I think it's Mysterious Guardian, if I'm
Yes.
looking correctly. Yeah.
Yeah. That one is just absolutely gangbusters. The amount of times that it's which game was it? I'm pretty sure it was game 5 at Uprising.
Hmm.
Opponent deployed Avatar of Cain in the corner, put a 10-man brick with a Spirit Seer right next to it. So it's just like, cool, I'll deploy on the other corner,
Mm-hmm.
as far enough away from that angry Eldar God of War as possible.
Yep.
And then it was the mission, which is hold one or more and then kill one or more.
Oh, yeah. Love that
And
one. Love that one.
so he went first. Cool. So teleport's an option. And I saw he opened a gap in the back line. So I'm just like, cool. I'll take him off first turn because it's very conditional.
Yep.
So I can't do it on my first turn if I'm going first because I have to take him off at the end of the turn, just like the Grey Knights, just
Yep.
like the Necrons. And I can only then arrive on my following turn. So that was a suicide on a TAC loadout, which then first draw was behind enemy lines and no prisoners. So it was cool. My warlord is just going to teleport into your deployment zone, kill one Night Spinner because the Wraith Guard ran away into the building using Phantasm. I was honestly confused by that because it made me hit on 2s.
Oh, wow. Okay, so that helped you. All right.
Yes.
All right.
And so that was the thermal cannon. I could have split fire if I had chosen to, but I chose not to risk it. Killed the one Night Spinner. And then it took the Avatar of Cain, the entire night, Wraith Guard walking the opposite direction from the front line to go deal with a Warlord who suicided for 14 victory points on turn 1.
Which is just such a good thing. Like, whenever you can make your opponent move in a direction they don't want to move, that is just absolute money for in terms of a game. Now, for anybody who's curious as to what we're talking about with the turn 1, there are abilities in the game like Grey Knights, like Mysterious Garden, where the exact explicit wording is remove it at the end of your opponent's turn. Then in the reinforcement step of your next movement phase, place this model onto the battlefield, essentially getting around the no deep strike rule, because it's not deep striking, it's not strat reserves. It is using a rule like Teleport Assault, like Mysterious Guardian, to do that, which has already been confirmed by GW and WTC that is how it is intended to work. So if you've got any abilities like that, and there are quite a few actually, that allows you to get into your opponent's deployment zone turn 1, which is also why screening is probably the most important thing in the world. So, yeah. So when you're looking at it, like, because we're seeing points, are there any things that, like, even with the points drops, that you don't care about and there's no chance that you take? Like, I don't see a lot of people, jumping towards Canis Rex. Is that something you would look at?
Oh, no, Canis Rex is nice. Canis Rex is very potent, but he doesn't offer any synergy to the rest of the army. I kill shit myself.
Yep.
So he's a bit pricey for what he is.
Okay.
Because you could get a Preceptor for 30 points less and get a similar loadout with more guns, because Canis can't have any upgraded turret top canopy weapons.
Right, okay.
Yeah. And so you can get not the crit hits, though, because Canis Rex is just an absolute fiend for having inbuilt crit 5+.
Right,
but,
okay.
Like, he is both good and bad, and like he has some hilarious play, such as baiting your opponent to killing him and then laughing your ass off as Sir Hector jumps out and the model technically isn't destroyed until you kill Hector. It's like, I got bring it down.
I do love that. Now, question for you, because I'm looking at, and this is I guess, sort of the space we've been in with Imperial Knights and Chaos Knights for the longest time, where it's been War Dog and Armiger spam for the most part, because they have been your most efficient sort of things. So when I'm looking at the Helverin, the Warglaive, and also the Moirax, with the points cuts to the Helverin and the Moirax, are they something that we're going to see a little bit more, or is it more likely that the Warglaive just offers too much?
Well, I run 5. Like, if it's the most likely list that I'm going to be taking, which is the Rogue Traders list,
Yep.
that is 4 Halberins, 5 Warglaives, and then Errant, who I still haven't actually given a proper name to, and because the backroom deals and warrant of trade are 2 freaking special rules for 105 points for a 4-man character unit, which all has a 4 model single character out of the 4, which all have a 4-up 4-up Inbound and a 5-up Feel No Pain, whilst the Medicae is still alive, and then you slap them really inside so they're 5 points more than a Warglaive, and it gives you a 10-man body squad that blocks midfield, which then, because the attached bodyguard unit is a battle line, they can then teleport themselves. So they can deny infiltrators and then pull themselves out before the game begins.
Okay, interesting. All right, so when we're looking at it, do you think with these these buffs, is it enough that people will come back to Imperial Knights? Because you guys had a really, really rough trot when the towering changes happened. And obviously they're a little bit better now because you can just touch onto a ruin and you can see through it, which is quite nice. Do you think there's going to be a lot of people coming back to it? Do you think that, like, Tau players or whatever actually should start considering Knights at the list building step? Or based on, what you've seen from my lists and our games and whatever else, is what we're currently taking still kind of enough for how the lists are going to end up?
Yeah, it's this essentially the points differential between my list and pretty sure most of the others, because there was only 4 of us at Uprising, so we were a grand total of 1% of the total representation, which was marvelous. So it's because none of, like, the Lancers pretty good, but because none of the big boys get their bondsmen, Imperial Knights literally have no way to get a big knight to advance in charge.
Okay.
At all.
Yeah.
Because Lancer only hands it out to Armigers. The Moirax, it's as much as, like, I've got a converted one which has lightning locks. I wish they were useful. They're nice. They're pretty. Yeah, but they're pretty useless.
Okay.
The conversion's the closest thing, because that's essentially stealing one of the conversion beamers from the Leagues of Botan, and that's actually pretty useful on something that moves 12.
That is quite good. Now, so is it essentially the same rule where on a crit hit you roll like D3 extra hits, or is it the old beamer in 9th where you hit everything on the line?
It's got the conversion rule, which is it crits on a 4+ when it hits.
Oh, that's so good. That is so good.
But one shot.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, one-shot weapons are in an interesting place at the moment, I think, because of the prominence of invulnerable saves. One-shot weapons
not the traditional
can be
one-shot
really good,
single.
but yeah.
Yeah, so it's like 2 shots out of a, because you can double up on a Moirax, so you can slap 2 of the conversion beamers on it, but then it's just kicking people, so it's essentially a very anti-tank Halberin, and at this point, Halberins are anti-tank enough.
Yeah, okay.
Considering you can make them with their, like, the only worthwhile battle tactic strat for Imperial Knights is Squire's Duty. Doesn't lock you in, unlike the Chaos Knights one, and it makes the Halberin autocannons strength 10, AP 2, damage 3, if honored, damage 4.
Okay. Interesting. Now, sorry, I've just been handed something. Well, I've handed something. My God. There's a comment from Warren Dealey saying the Vespid can deep strike, because I was shitting on them just before. So in the rules commentary, I must have missed this. If a unit can deep strike, arise from strategic reserve, the controlling player can choose for that unit to be set up using either strat reserve or deep strike. Okay, so that makes it less shit, but I'm still going to say that we're never going to see Vespid.
Yeah, but they're
Yeah.
going to fall into the same kind of category for Tau as the Orc Boys. What's their special ability again? It's because there is a couple of weird ass loadouts I've already played around with today for just sheer insanity, and I pointed something out to Feud. And don't you love an army that smites on both players' turns? You can do it with Death Guard. Come on, it's just on turn 3. Everything within 12 inches of the center of the board, roughly, on a 4+, depending on how many models they're near, takes D3 mortal wounds.
That's not bad. What are you getting that from?
They're lords. So you can take 6 of them.
Yep.
3 Terminators and 3 Infantry Lords. Each one is on a 4+, does D3 mortals. And then you take Mortarion to buff it up to a 12-inch range. First turn, you rock up with the 3 in Rhinos. They jump out, unfurl banners for 15-inch and 18-inch for the one with the upgrade. Because nothing says screw your prepping, then, okay, that unit, 3 4+, that unit, 3 4+ to do D3 wounds for each success. And then just going around the board. I just call the list plagues. Plagues.
And then I guess if your opponent isn't killing you super efficiently, by that time you've got the longest. I think turn 3. What's their contagion aura? It's like 12 inches at that point. Is that correct?
So turn 1 is 3, turn 2 is 6, turn 3 is 9.
9.
Morty adds 3 with one of his buffs. And then you have a Living Plague upgrade, which you slap on one of the Lords, which adds another 3. So it can be sitting on turn 3. One of the Lords has a 15-inch from his model, everything that he touches. At the end of turn, on a 4+. So you can't even use a Feel No Pain strat from the shooting phase or fight phase, because it's end of each player's turn.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. So at that point, you're giving out. I mean, like, how have you found for your games? Has it been ballistic skill and weapon skill that you've mostly been taking? Every Death Guard opponent I've gone into has gone BS and WS.
Yeah, that's the most common sense one is, unless you've built like really stupid things like I have a nasty habit of, and just going like, I could prove to you that Blight Lord Terminators work. So I'm taking Rattle Joint. Why? Because I need the AP.
Well, I guess that brings up a good question. Let's move on to Death Guard. Because they did see a lot more play with the changes that they got in the last Dataslate. And now we're seeing that Plague Bursts and Plague Marines got worse. Not, so far as I can tell, not infinitely worse, but they did get more expensive. And then you've got Deathstrider Terminators, Fetid Blight Drones, and Lord of Virulence is going down. How much does that change? Oh, and Typhus, went down as well. How much does that change the landscape of Death Guard?
So Typhus, not all that much. Hilariously, the Lord of Virulence and the Death Shrouds, it's essentially, I believe they've dropped it by about 15 for the Death Shrouds, and I think 15 for the Lord of Virulence. So if you were already taking 3 Plague Burst Crawlers, it's literally a wash, because you'd take 6 Death Shrouds, because I almost killed the Drukhari's Forge World transport.
Yeah.
In Overwatch.
Okay.
Because Death Shrouds is 7 Flamers.
Yeah,
Lord of
they've got
Virulence
the hand Flamers, don't they?
Yep, and full rerolls to wound. So it was
okay.
in Plague, so you -1 to your armor, 6s to wound, 7 dice. Okay, so 40 shots.
Yeah, 40 shots is disgusting. And you see Tau players, this is exactly what I was talking about with the Riptides, where you get indirect sort of buffs. With these changes, we're going to start seeing a lot of Terminators. At least I feel like we will. From, Custodes being their 3 wound and 4 wound models, to Destrad Terminators, to Dark Angels Terminators and all the Deathwing stuff and whatever. They got some decent buffs out of this. Where are they? Dark Angels should be the next one up. So the Lion went down, Deathwing Command Squad went down, Deathwing Terminator went down. Raven Wings I'm not super familiar with, but I'm assuming there's something sort of similar. That
Raven Wing
means...
are pretty main.
Yeah, that means that I think having guns at that 4 damage breakpoint is just such a nice place to be in.
Yeah, so I think they gave the Raven Wing, which is the which will be the Knights, the Raven Wing Knights. Those have plasma blasters, so they're a freaking Space Marine bike with a twin plasma gun on them. But yeah, Death Guard, that should be relatively silly. But the main one is the Plague Marines, because I know they came in 3rd at Uprising.
Oh, right. Who was the player who had that?
Let me have a look. Where in Hades did I put my things? There it is. Because I encountered, because there was essentially one pretty prevalent Plague Marine list, because you can run them with 5 heavy plague weapons.
I think we saw a similar thing at LVO. I think there were a couple of players that did quite well with that sort of an archetype.
That was Michael Wood, Yabby Hunters. Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, okay. Were they yelling out Yabby every time they finished a drink?
Pretty much. I'm pretty sure I saw several shoeys.
So obnoxious.
Oh no, I saw shoeys this year, so that was great.
Right. For any non-Australians, doing a shoey is where you pour your drink into a shoe and then neck it in one go. And it can be all kinds of shoes. You can have like Ugg boots. You can have just your normal runners and that sort of stuff. You can have like big... I don't know why the British word is popping into my head. Wellingtons. I don't know. My brain can't think of what we call them. No, not wellies. That's just Wellingtons. I don't know why I can't think of this. This is actually going to hurt my brain.
Rain boots?
Rain boots, yeah, just whatever. We did them at the rugby club. We do them out of boots that we had just played 80 minutes in. The what? Say again. Gum boots. That's it. My God, that was going to hurt my brain. Gum boots. Yeah, so doing a shoey is, putting your drink in your shoe or somebody else's and then necking the whole thing. Loopy, I don't want to disappoint you, but that is 100% something we do. And that's not even the worst thing. That's not even by far. Oh God! At one stage, I am gonna have to start telling stories from my 20s, because that's a fucking goldmine for content. Anyway, so looks like we're gonna be having some decent shakeups. Actually, so I'll just, before I jump off and we'll end up the stream after this. Astra Militarum, Manticore going up, I don't think changes too much, but the order changes for them.
Oh God, yeah.
I think that changes a lot for what Astra Militarum is going to do, because even the like our main Astra Militarum player, Liam Ma, when I was having my practice game against him, he was talking about a lot of the things that he can't do because he had stuff in transports. And I think he was running just like a meme party bus list with I think it was the Storm Sword or the Storm Lord. And just having a billion things in that and whatever. I think that list gets better. Transport. Yeah. I think that list gets better.
The other thing that's going to become absolutely terrifying, which I pointed out in the Down Under chat, is going to be if potentially you don't even need to run as like everyone takes like 3 squads of, or like 2 squads of 5-man scions. Potentially you may see that go into, oh cool, so I'm just going to bring 3 at 10-man with a command section for each, so they deep strike, they have sustained hits full rerolls against something on an objective. Oh, and it's 3 plasma guns, 3 hotshot volley guns.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it land
yeah.
cool. They give themselves the order for first rank fire, second rank fire. So it's 9 plasma shots coming out of the unit, 15 hotshot volley guns coming out of the unit, full rerolls
Yep.
to hit, sustained on 6s to hit,
Mm,
and everything's got AP.
yeah, that's nasty. That's nasty. Yeah,
So
I'm
it's
really keen to
trash
see
clear
where
it.
Astra Militarum goes. This is 100% an army that, like, it's the only army from 40k I was allowed to collect as a kid. And every now and again, it keeps trying to sucker me back in when I see like Lehman Russes and the Walkers. My brain's forgetting the name of them. Seeing
awesome.
Ogren and that sort of stuff because I love my Ogren in Darktide. And I'm like, no, you like to have money. You like to have money. Stop it. Stop it. But
Just when I thought I was out, back in.
and honestly, I've just gone up to Agents of the Imperium. This not getting touched is pretty massive for a lot of Imperial lists that needed this to stay the same. Like the Calidus Assassin is amazing. The Exaction Squad I haven't been seeing any more of because you can only take them in 10-mans. But there has been, Vindicares, there's been Calexis Eversaws and Calidus's that I've seen on the board. I've also seen somebody using, it was either Inquisitor Greyfax or Eisenhorn.
Not surprised.
Yeah.
So one thing you're probably going to see with Guard is with the update for ignore modifiers, Cadian command squads. They'll start getting slapped into infantry squads with like twin las cannon.
Oh yeah.
Or ignore all modifiers. Like, oh, it halves damage. Yeah. No, it doesn't. Go hell.
Yeah, that'll be really good. That'll be really good.
If they go cheeky, they could also slide a Cadian Castellan in for also sustained hits.
Yeah.
But that's really stacking.
Yeah, I feel like at that point you probably it's something that you could, but do you have the points to also have some of the other stuff? Because I don't think we're seeing them go away from, at least like tank commanders or Lehman Russes or whatever, and having some of the staples that they've had in before. I think the Manticore going up does push them away a little bit from that indirect fire that they were doing before. That is the Manticore, isn't it?
Yeah, the Manticore's the missile one, but the Manticore's got a it's D6 plus 1 number of shots plus blast.
Yeah.
The Basilisk is its wonderful sibling, and
135 points. God damn.
It is so wonderfully cheap, and it is only it's the slight difference is lower damage, but it's D6 plus 3.
Okay. I mean, I'd still probably take that. And that's something that we have to consider as Tau players, because any out of line of sight stuff, especially if we're going things for Breach of Fish or Pathfinders or whatever else, this can be pretty obnoxious, as well as lone Darkstriders. If I'm using Darkstrider, I will not detach him from the Pathfinder unit. Because at the very least, if they're going to get shot, I can get rid of everybody that's standing around him before I lose that resource and that deep strike denial. But yeah, some very, very interesting changes in the Dataslate. I feel like we're going to come into a very different era of the game, and that's always good. I know that there's not a lot of swinging stuff that people have been asking for with certain factions, but at the very least, change in a competitive sense is always good. I hope all of you have enjoyed the stream. Once again, don't forget, we are crowd fundraising to get Croup boxes on the table. There is a PayPal link in the description of this YouTube video. This will be up immediately as a VOD. We also have things like Twitch donations and subs and whatever else. Every single thing is appreciated and will get your name on a banner at the event that I'm running in March. I want to say a big thank you to Pat for coming on. Really glad to have one of my team members finally a part of some content. We will be doing a lot more in the future. And you'll get to meet some of the other team members. But for now, I think, Pat, I'm going to go and have some dinner. And everybody have a lot of fun building your Tau lists. Because there's a lot for us to consider. And even though it didn't change for us specifically, the world moved around us. And we have to make suit. So, yeah, thank you very much to everybody. Thank you to Pat. And we will see you in the next one.
Cheerio.
All right, so I've chucked